gotta go. I'm going on a quest.
Hey, you wearing your rubber boots tonight?
This is JD's podcast, JD's Rubber Boots podcast. He's gonna sit and relax and tell you all sorts of stories. He's gonna talk all about life and sports, and probably we'll play some games. And if nothing else, you know we're gonna have a laugh. This is the podcast for the masters.
Episode 8 of the Rubber Boots podcast, a historic episode 8, the first ever one on location, live, not really, from Augusta, Georgia, and the Masters, and new voices. We welcome, first of all, Puffy is here. Hi, Puffy.
Hey, how's it going?
Puffy not only works as a producer on hockey, but also on the Masters, hardworking. These guys are famous. There's a bit of a podcast crossover going on this week. The Bump and Run podcast is a very popular golf podcast run out of the network.
All right, this is Bump and Run. I am Run.
And I am Bump.
And the two stars of that show are Bump and Run. Who's Bump again? You're Bump?
I'm Bump.
Bump. Welcome, Bump. Should we call you anything
Just
more
Bump.
than that?
No, he should just be known as Bump.
So
That's all you got?
we shouldn't even identify him?
No, just Bump.
I think that's sad for me.
Okay.
So I wanted to be identified in the Rubber Boots podcast.
Bump and Run. Hello, Run.
Hello, I'm running.
You know, it reminds me of Kid and Play. And we
We
never
also have a dance.
With better haircuts.
we never knew who Kid was, and we never knew who Play was.
Kid was the one with the high fade, wasn't he?
Or Millie and Vanilli.
It could be.
Bump is Jamie Rydell. He produces golf for TSN, and he produces it for football as well, the CFL. Run is the very street nickname for Bob Weeks,
is very
TSN's golf analyst. So welcome to the show, Bump and Run. That's what I'm going to call you from now on the Rubber Boots podcast. Lester, of course, could not be here because we fired him again.
Yeah, that's twice in 8
I
weeks.
just assumed
I feel
it was
bad for
budget
Lester.
cuts.
No, Lester will still be doing his music for free.
Nice.
Christoph, of course, is manning the board back in
ones and twos.
in Toronto. So we're doing this. I have to thank the Bump and Run guys too, because as I warned you last week on the podcast, I have no technological expertise, and these guys have a laptop and a microphone. So it saved me from trying to record this on my phone.
High tech. We're high tech, baby.
Sponsored by Labatt Blue, it looks like.
What?
Oh, it's called a blue
It's
microphone.
a blue snowball microphone is what it's called.
Don't
That's all I know
anger
about
our other potential sponsor. We're all enjoying today delightful Michelob Ultras. Michelob Ultra. After a long day at the golf course, there's nothing better. You can work out. It's almost like a protein shake, isn't it, Puffy?
Bump, could you
you know-
pass me one of those?
Here you go.
Do you know I ran the Vegas Marathon, and one of the sponsors of the Vegas Marathon was Michelob Ultra, so that tells you I don't know, beer and a marathon doesn't really work.
Well, did you? And
Have you seen the commercial?
So did they not?
Yeah, they work out and then
Yeah.
they drink Mick Ultra.
No, but
get
so when
better.
you're running the marathon, do you get is there a station for
Water,
Mick Ultras?
Gatorade,
water?
and beer. Yeah.
And Mick Ultra.
Man, I go for the Mick
Jamie,
Ultra
would you
every
hand
time.
me one of those lovely Mick Ultras with only 4 grams of carbs? Does it sound like we're desperately trying to get a sponsor here on the Rubber Boots
Desperate.
podcast?
I like the can.
I can't say that you're
I like
Long
it.
and
desperate.
lean.
It's so satisfying. Are we allowed to? Can you have beer on a podcast? I mean, on television, you're not allowed to drink professionally.
You can't drink it.
But I think after a long day. So here's the way I should explain to people the way the Masters works for TSN. We come down here, we rent a house. We're actually in this big house in a town called Evans, Georgia, which is outside of Augusta, maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah, about 20 minutes.
20
about
minutes.
20 minutes from the course.
In the golf course. So we go there all day. It's long days. We come out, hang out at the house, and that's where we're recording this podcast right now with Bump and Run and Puffy.
It's a real honor.
This feels like this is
have
the
it.
most
You're-
hip hop I've ever been, because my posse is Bump, Run, and Puffy.
Yeah, it's true.
Brad Fritsch is also with us, Canadian PGA Tour player, huge hockey fan. He's with us all week at the Masters, and he'll be our guest a little bit later
He's a
on.
big Calgary Flames fan, is that true?
He will come in and choke
Massive
you.
Flames
He's a
fan.
massive Sens fan.
That's a Johnny Gaudreau fan.
He loves the hockey. Very good golfer as well. And what I want to find out from Brad, I'm not going to ask him boring golf questions, but what is it like to be a PGA Tour player? What is it like? What's the difference between being a web.com tour player and a PGA Tour player?
You should
Not
ask
just
him,
money, things like
would
that.
he rather win the Masters or the Sens win the Cup?
Well, he's going to say the Masters,
He
you
might
idiot.
not.
No, he might not.
He might
I
Sens.
think that's a great question.
The Sens, he's a big Sens fan. If he's a real big hockey
Would
fan.
you rather win the lottery, Puffy, or your Leafs win the Cup?
How much is the lottery?
10 million.
The lottery's never less than...
You're not... Why are you even pausing?
Yeah,
I'm
stupid.
thinking about it.
No, you're an idiot.
When I'm
Can I
on my
say
deathbed, am I counting the millions of dollars? No, but I'm thinking about that Leafs Stanley Cup.
No, you're done.
Hey,
It's completely wrong.
I just want to break this up because you mentioned we're in Evans, Georgia.
Right.
Do you know who the most famous people from Evans, Georgia are?
No.
Hulk Hogan is from Evans, Georgia.
Come on.
No, he's
You know-
from Venice Beach, California.
You know who else is from Evans, Georgia? Lawrence Fishburne.
Lawrence
Larry.
Fishburne is from
No,
Evans,
he's
Georgia?
from South Central Los
Me and Larry,
Angeles.
Lawrence
used to
We took a...
club hub.
we took
Emerson
a...
Boozer.
Club together.
Here's the thing about all these houses in Evans, Georgia. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
They all cost about like $500,000 for
Yeah.
what in Toronto or Vancouver would be about $4 million.
Yeah.
They all have golf carts. We took a little golf cart around yesterday around the neighborhood.
Like ridiculous golf carts, not just normal golf carts.
8-seaters, like Rodney
8-seaters
Dangerfield
with radios
golf
and-
carts.
that don't work.
Well, lots of golf talk ahead. Look, if you're not a golf fan, like the Rubber Boots podcast is not supposed to be about diehard sports fans, but everybody in this group has played Augusta National. Probably the number one question I get asked before, what's Puffy like? When the podcast started was, what was it like to play Augusta? So we'll talk about that. We'll tell some master stories. But first, it's the Rod Smith episode 7 recap.
Early on, the podcast debuts its hot new ballad, Serious Lester.
Serious Lester.
And I always ask the question, well, what's the quality of my life, right? Do I want to live long, like to 90, 95, and be miserable and then die a horrific death?
And we're getting too crazy.
That'll make the ladies swoon, boys. I mean, not as much as a Rod Smith voiceover, but good effort. Anyway, later, Serious Lester briefly turned into Creepy Lester when Duthie showed him a photo of one of Biz Nasty's old girls.
Oh, my goodness. Can I get a little closer, please? Yeah. Wow.
Special guest Jay Onright shared his reaction when he learned he'd be on the Rubber Boots podcast.
It was weird. I peed my pants. Like I had to soak them.
If Jay's story is number 1 on our list, Puffy's is number 2.
Have you ever pooped your pants?
No, I don't think I have. Why, have you?
Yeah.
I apologize for all the poop today.
Listen, boys, I'm Rod freaking Smith. I can't do this anymore. I have a reputation, and you are disgusting me. That's all for this week. Now back to Last Call with David Pratt.
There we go.
So good.
Last call.
How
with
many of these do you think Rod's going to come up with before he starts running out of old TSN show ideas?
Well, you think what I'm trying to do here is Rod is probably, as we've said, maybe the nicest guy at the network and one of the nicest guys I've ever met. So, but the Rod Smith character on the Rod Smith recap, we would like to turn him into the most egomaniacal, referencing himself.
Yeah, I do
constantly.
enjoy it a lot.
I think that's probably the most popular segment that we've done so far. Puffy, I need just quickly on the recap. What was the feedback from you telling the story, which I think shocked a lot of us about you pooping your pants?
Well, it shocked mostly the guys who I was out for lunch with. None of them knew the story. So they were all like, you shit your pants right after that.
What about your wife?
She was disgusted when I told her that after I'd shit the pants, and she will not listen to this anymore.
But does she... Oh,
She knew.
Was
She was the
she
only
upset
person.
that you told the story?
I actually don't even know if she knows I told the
Because she
story.
works at a rival broadcasting company, and now she'll go into work, and if anybody listens to the podcast over there, which we know they do,
They
she'll
do,
say,
they definitely
your
do.
husband is
Yeah.
Mr. Poopy Pants.
I'm waiting for that to come back. It's going to come back hard on her.
All right.
She works at Chorus?
Mom, don't get this podcast
Yeah.
off track, all right?
My bad.
Run over here, by the way, is completely tuned out and is doing research on the master.
I'm trying to find the name of that famous group, musical group that's from here. I can't remember who they are.
Do you think...
Lady Antebellum.
Lady Antebellum. Thank
Yeah.
you. That's all I wanted
They
to
did
say.
a big
Also
concert
from here.
Yeah.
Snoop
See.
Dogg's playing on Wednesday night
I think
Where?
they might have-
in town.
Yeah,
He's got a
he's got a
big.
big
It's $150 a pop, so you're gonna be So you're going to be down about
Puff, you don't think
$600.
if we don't make one phone call and say, hey guys, it's the cast of the Rubber Boots podcast, could we...
Maybe if we tell them it's Puff Daddy, he needs some tickets to the show.
That might actually work.
Might be tougher picking them up.
We had an incident this morning with my protein shake. Did you want to relay that? Because you were kind of watching their bump.
Well, I'm more amazed at what you put in your protein shake.
Yeah.
Like kale.
Spinach.
Blueberries.
Protein.
What's the difference between kale and spinach?
I don't really know. It just
Kale's more
impresses me. My wife taught me this stuff. I just follow it.
How about this guy? Right? Like, am I not coming back on this podcast after I just described kale?
As bitter?
That's actually going to be the name of their podcast after. It's going to be Spinach and Kale. We're bump and run.
Should be spinach.
There you go. Spinach and Kale.
Spinach
So
and
he
kale.
blends it up, and all of a sudden, there's a horrid noise. And everybody, we're looking, we can't figure it out. And then you see the white plastic. The lid was on backwards.
Upside down.
And it fell.
Oh, so it was chipping
fell
away?
into the blender. There's a little chip out of it.
You have in a typical blender, you have the rubber lid and then the plastic cap.
Yeah.
So this had a larger plastic cap, and it was put on upside down by whoever, the patron of this house, who, by the way, I'll forget it. There's photos of the family around here, and the wife is quite striking.
How about the gentleman?
The
He
gentleman,
looks like
creepy Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want to get sued. It's a beautiful house, and they have a very nice family.
9 bedrooms.
Yeah. So I put the cap on backwards. The plastic fell into the blender, and I probably now in my belly there's a heavy content of plastic.
So you still drank it?
No, I didn't.
Heavy content of plastic.
I think
is
actually
not.
the best part was afterwards. So he said, "I have a great idea. I'm gonna get a strainer,
Yes.
and I'm gonna pour the mixture into the strainer, and then it will hold the plastic cap, and everything is plastic, and I'll just still be able to drink it."
But isn't it really thick?
No, the only thing he forgot was that he didn't put anything underneath the strainer, so he just
Went down the
basically
drain.
poured his smoothie down the drain.
Look, I
You
don't.
are a moron.
Huffy never wakes up early enough to witness all this.
Well, you got to get that last few minutes of
You were the
sleep.
last guy out of the house every day.
Look,
I was not the last guy
up. Last guy up.
Maybe last guy awake, but I get dressed in a hurry.
I do not function well in the mornings, and in my head for a second I thought this would work great. I'll pour everything in, the piece of plastic will be gone, it will show up in the strainer, and then I realized everything went down the sink.
I think you should have drank it.
We should tell some golf stories because I'm sure there's probably more golf listeners than most week. Don't turn away if you're not a golf fan. We won't get into the details of golf, but one of the very cool things at Augusta National. By the way, we almost died today in a tornado. Am I exaggerating that at all? Maybe
You're
a
not
little bit.
exaggerating.
There was
There were,
definitely warnings.
there were like 2 lightning strikes that were really scary.
Right.
There's a lady flying by us on a bicycle with a dog in a basket. That's how bad it was.
We were doing our TSN stuff from our little set, which is on the par 3 course, and this massive storm came on, and this George Orwell type 1984 voice came on and said, "Please abandon the course. The world is going to end."
And that's when you guys started taping.
That's right.
So that's when we started
We had
taping.
to wait for that to end before we started taping.
Way to go.
Well, then our renowned cameraman Dean, who when you need to get something done in a hurry.
Was he just Windexing his camera?
No, he's just perfecting the lights and stuff, and it's one of us could. Bob's been struck by lightning. Dean, we're down to just me and Brad. Could we get this one? Just one more adjustment, guys. Well, now Brad is dead as well, Dean. It's just me. I'll just be doing a stand-up now.
Now we have to change the shot.
But if I had my camera rolling, I need to zoom in now. Sorry, these are inside jokes.
That's what this podcast is all about. I've listened to it.
Yeah, I know.
I love it.
It's kind of an industry pod, is it not, in a way?
True.
So Bump and his buddy, who else took off with you? Dean,
yeah.
Dean and Bump took off and made a run for it in the pouring rain. And Bob and I and Brad decided to stay. And there was a lightning strike that was so close to the tent that if I had... Bob and I and Brad, never have you seen 3 men cower like we did. And we hit the ground.
Heroes, I would call you.
Like if there was a small child with me, we would have been holding it over me to block the lightning from hitting me.
And we didn't quite figure out the whole thing with the lightning and the thunder, so the lightning strike went down, and then we all hit the ground, and then we were cowering more for the thunder, but the lightning the part that's going to kill us.
You're basically diving into lightning.
Anyway, so we almost died, but we got it done. So we all got to play. You guys, Bump and Puffy, played Augusta National together. So I should say there is a draw. If you haven't heard the story, one of the cool things about Augusta National, which is one of the most ridiculously great places in the world, one of the few places I've been that's more beautiful in person than it is on television. And for the media, every year they do a draw, and a group of people get to play on the Monday. And so Bump and Puffy got to play together in what year?
That was 2010.
And so you're an okay golfer. I played with you. You're decently. And what was your number one takeaway from playing Augusta National, which, you know, for a lot of guys, and I'm sure some ladies out there as well, it's like very high on the bucket list to do that?
Well, 3 things I would take away. Well, first off, Puffy and I wore matching Joker purple shirts, which was the big thing, right, Puff?
It was huge.
The 3 things I would take away is the Augusta caddies are unbelievable.
Right.
My caddy was awesome. Puffy
what was his name again?
It was Rowdy Gaines.
Rowdy Gaines.
And
I think he's a tour caddy now.
He was trying to get on a Nationwide bag at the time, or Web.com bag. But he would give me a hand.
For non-golf fans, that means he wanted to caddy for a player on the tour.
Yeah, sorry. My bad. I'm used to the
sounded a little porno.
It did, actually.
Rowdy Gaines does sound like a good porno.
It is a good porno name.
Rowdy Gaines wanted to get on my bag. Sorry.
Oh, that's going to be edited out.
And he would just hand me clubs. I wouldn't even know what club I was hitting and say, hit it this way. And boom. Second thing is, we had a beautiful day.
We did.
And the greens are as treacherous as they say they are, even though they didn't roll them for us. But you can, if you miss your putt short, it'll roll. Like first hole, I missed it short, and it rolled all the way down to the first. And the third thing is all the trees are angled towards the fairway. I hit 3 balls into the trees, and they all bounced back into the fairway on.
And every time it did, I was pissed off.
He was so pissed. On 4 of the par 3, I hit it way right into the trees, bounced back into play.
I parred the 4th hole.
On 10, it bounced back in. Yeah. And on 18, I hit it dead straight left into the trees, and it bounced right into the fairway.
Did you guys make any birdies?
No.
I parred the 4th hole, and that was it.
What did you shoot?
I shot 94.
I shot 104.
I had a good shot at birdie on 7, and again, like, it's so fast downhill. And I just hammered it right by the break and 3-putted from 7 feet.
So Weeksy has been covering golf Run has been covering golf longer than all of us. And he finally won the draw 2 years ago after how many years?
19 years. It was my 19th attempt.
Wow, which is remarkable because the thing is, if you win, you don't get to play for a few years.
7.
So 7 years. So you'd think, and most people are the same people that come every year, so you'd figure your odds would get better and better.
You'd think so.
And you were screwed. So. Did you bring your clubs every year, or did you stop?
Pretty much every year, but not all. Not. I think.
You didn't bring them that year, did you?
I did. Yeah, I had them that year. I brought them pretty much every year, but a couple of years I didn't, because we used to actually stay around and play afterwards. So all the guys who didn't get picked would play on Monday morning, and then we take the last flight home out of Atlanta. But it was finally 19 years, and it was like a Hail Mary finally.
What was your thought?
The memory was that, first of all, because it took 19 years, I had people like I didn't even know who were asking me on Twitter and stuff, did you win and stuff. So finally, just getting on the course was great, and they treat you so well. And a good story, I was walking off the first tee. I had a good caddy too. I don't remember his name, but he was an old Vietnam veteran actually, and we were walking down the first hole, and he says, Mr. Weeks, he says, I want to make you a bet. I said, okay. He says, for every weed you find today, says, I'll pay you $100. But at the end of the day, if you haven't found any weeds, you owe me $1,000. So as we're doing this, I'm starting to look down, and I'm looking around, and I'm going over, and I said, no bet. There's like no weeds anywhere.
No weeds, no bees.
There's hardly any rough.
It's
no birds.
It's like the Truman Show. It's like this fake world that's created.
It's unbelievable.
There's tunnels underneath the holes, and apparently this year the azaleas were all gone, and they replaced every azalea on the course in the last few days or something like that. And this media center that they've built is literally the nicest building in the world.
It has a Michelin rating. 5.0. That's how good it is.
Yeah. So my takeaway was Puffy had told me this, that it was going to be the fastest round of my life, not in actual time, but it would feel that way.
Yeah.
And you're walking up 18, and it felt like 2 hours because you never wanted it to end.
Puffy told me that story, and the same thing. I thought immediately of him as I started walking up 18, and it's just
That was the only bad part of your day.
Please don't.
Yeah.
You guys had told me too. Bob had said they give you a little card that says arrive at this time, and then your tee off time is an hour later. And so Bob said you have to arrive at that time, but I said screw it. So I had a cab, and I arrived 40 minutes early, and they said you arrive at the top of Magnolia Lane, and they say you can't come in till 9:40. And then I realized I had no golf balls, and so I had the driver take me to Walmart. And the only golf balls there were top flights. So I went to Augusta National.
Great ball.
I went to Augusta National with a dozen top flights.
In your life, have you seen anything like that?
So I get to the range, and of course the range balls are all Pro Vs, and with the Augusta logo. But the caddies are all standing there, and so you don't. Like, I wanted to pick up 50 and put them in my bag. So I looked at my caddy, I picked up a couple, and I kind of went, eh? And he kind of turned away as in, go for it. So I stuck 6 in my bag, and I played the round with the Augusta Golf Range golfer. Thankfully, I only lost 1 ball on the water on 15. And to your comment on the caddies, they say don't tip the caddies, but Weeksy had said tip them. So I got $100 to tip the caddy, and my caddy was great. And I sort of gave it to him down at Amen Corner when nobody was looking. But I was playing with a lovely lady who worked for the BBC, and her caddy was, you know how some caddies really work for the tip? This guy worked hard all day. He did Eddie Murphy impressions. He read everybody's putt. He entertained for 5 hours. And then we're walking up 18, and she says, "It's so nice that we don't have to tip the caddies." I said, this guy is totally screwed. All right, it's time for everybody's next favorite segment to Rod Smith's recap. It's Puffy's Hypotheticals.
Puffy's hypotheticals are messing with my mind. Puffy's hypotheticals, what's it gonna be this time? Puffy's hypotheticals are blowing my mind again. Puffy's hypotheticals.
I said last week, we got a little disgusting last week.
We went too far into the poopy talk.
Too far in the poopy. You started that, really.
I did. It was my bad. And then,
well, we brought it. We tried to do it for On Right, and then On Right was very clean.
Yeah,
and then
way too clean.
And you were disgusting. So let's try to keep the focus.
Although there is a theme to this week. It's going to be heavy golf on the hypotheticals.
That's fine. But not like golf questions.
No.
Board, right? Go ahead.
So this is for all you guys. Would you accept this deal from Augusta National? You can play the course one more time, but you can never step foot on the property again. So, like, you have a child who qualifies for the Masters. They win the green jacket, and you are watching it from home.
Well, Rydell's got 9 girls who are all in dance, so that's not going to happen. So would you take that deal?
I would absolutely take that deal. That's a no-brainer. To play one more time and then not come back. I've been here 12 years.
But this is part of your job, so maybe you'll get fired, too. Then.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just be the guy that produces from the control room.
All right, so you would take the deal?
I would take the deal.
Puffy, would you take the deal?
No. I'm pretty convinced that one of my children will win a green jacket in my lifetime, so I cannot take that deal.
Plus, you need this week away to drink
exactly. I've played the course
cool,
once.
refreshing Michelob Ultras.
Smooth beer. I think I'm gaining abs just drinking.
No, seriously, my muscle. I have like 4 pounds of muscle over the last 3 days just from the Mick Ultras. Bob?
I probably wouldn't take the deal because I like to come back here, and I've already played it once. And once you played it once, it's you've broken the barrier, so to speak. You've played it. You've had your treat. So I think I would probably just take the no play.
Hey everybody, Dean, the cameraman so we'll probably have to start the podcast again because Dean doesn't like the lighting and he doesn't realize it's not actually being filmed. He's walked into frame now. Hello, Dean.
Yo.
Okay, get the hell out of here, Dean. Also, Nicole, we should shout out to Nicole, who's also walked through the background. The only lady staying at her house. What are you doing?
That's the Masters theme song. We're playing Dean off.
It is a beautiful tune.
Nicole is kind of our group sugar mama who takes care of all of us.
She's living every lady's dream to be in this house with all of us dudes.
With 9 guys. Nicole's a hero for that. So Nicole Anderson, who is... What's your title, Nicole?
Senior Production
Senior production manager.
Not a production manager.
For TSN.
Senior.
Mark Millett is also like sleeping in the room right adjacent to this room. Yeah. Oh, director of photography, Dean Willers. Sorry.
I think senior director.
Go make dinner. Get the hell out of here. What were we doing? Oh, I will accept the deal too, Puffy.
So you'll take the
I want to
deal,
play it one more time. You know what really bothered me is that I hit the ball really good that day, and I was so conservative and scared around the greens that I would putt away from the hole just to.
You think you're one round from contention? You really feel like you could have.
I feel
made
like
a few more putts. You would have been right there on Sunday. Is that what happened?
I feel like I might have qualified. No, but like all 4 par 5s, I was right in the middle of the fairway, lying to, and I like 100 yards out, and made bogey on all of them. So it bothers me.
Comparable to when you won the Chinese Amateur?
I did. Back
when you watch the Bump and Run podcast, you'll understand what we're talking about.
2009. Oh, Puffy, question 2, please.
Oh yeah, sure. So, what fictional?
The Mick Ultras is starting to get to me. I'm losing my focus.
In fairness, he's too deep. So, what fictional golfer would you want to play a round of golf with? Like a movie character who's a golfer. Like Roy McAvoy from Tin Cup.
Well, I bet you $1,000 against my car that I can beat you in any game, you name it, with a golf club.
I like to reference every podcast.
Yes, you have.
Have you?
So you get to play around with a character from any golfing movie.
Yes.
But it is the character. So I'm not playing with Kevin Costner, and I don't get to ask him about when he was Yuri in No Way Out.
No.
Or your favorite movie.
An obvious question.
Or your favorite movie, Waterworld.
It was excellent. Dances with Wolves is my friend.
I watched that on the floor of an old girlfriend's place.
Waterworld?
Yeah. No, Dances with Wolves. Can I say the word ass? Was numb. Oh my God! What, 4 hours on a hard carpet?
That's the best story you brought.
Am I not coming back? Am I not back? Am I not coming back next
early
week?
on, it seemed like it was going somewhere.
Yeah, really.
Kind of like Dances with Wolves.
Do you have to remember? I did say the word ass.
It's true.
Okay.
I'm going to take. This is an obvious one to me. I'm playing with Happy Gilmore.
Why didn't you just go home? That's your home. Are you too good for your home? Answer me.
I want to play 18 holes with Happy. I want him to be. By the way, did you see the thing they did with him and Bob Barker? If you haven't seen it on YouTube, they did it again as part of
the first time.
Yeah, it is fantastic. So Happy Gilmore, I'm playing with.
Do you think you'd really enjoy?
I want Scooter McGavin in the group too.
You can't have. That's 2 people.
I don't think you can have
you
Scooter
have to choose
McGavin,
one or
but
the
you
other.
might be able to have Shooter McGavin. Maybe Shooter.
All right, we got to cut this off.
His younger brother.
Really?
I don't want to play with Shooter McGavin. I want to play with his cousin Scooter.
One of my best friends is a guy named Scooter who I played golf with growing up. So sorry, Shooter McGavin, of course.
You're in big trouble, though, pal. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
And who's the guy who yells jackass?
You suck, you jackass.
That's I don't know what his name in the movie is, but it's he was in.
People are yelling at the podcast. Because, Christoph, could you please insert the answer with your voice?
I believe the name you're looking for is Joe Flaherty.
Jackass.
So we don't look like complete utter idiots.
Bob, who would you like to play with?
I think I'd like to play with Judge Smales.
Don't count that. I was interfered with.
Yes, sir.
That would be pretty good. Yeah, Judge Smales would be good. Yeah,
That's fantastic.
don't count that.
See, but I'm going this way because obviously when you play. When you play golf, you maybe play for some money, or you play a game, Nassau, whatever you play. So I want to play with somebody that I'm going to have a chance to win some money off of. So I think I could take Chubbs McKenzie because he's got one hand.
Damn alligator bit my hand. Oh my God.
Or Dorf on golf. Remember Tim Conway?
Tim Conway starring in Dorf on Golf.
That is not a movie.
That's not a movie.
That's not a movie.
He had a whole bunch of videos.
I think that was an infomercial. I don't think it was a movie.
That was a Carol Burnett show.
Carol Burnett.
Wasn't it?
But Tim Conway played Dorf on golf. So I'm going to take those two
It's
guys.
a good reference if you're under 50.
No.
I mean, over 50.
Is that
I'm really struggling right now.
They put you in a hat.
Target audience?
Are we going to have to start again?
We might have to redo the podcast tomorrow.
No, that's a quality answer. Dorf on golf for all you under 50.
See, all you
You may
guys
wanna
were
look
preparing
it up.
for Tin Cup and Happy Gilmore and Bagger Vance.
Yeah.
Dorf on Golf. I slide it right in there. Right after the Dances with Wolves story, I'm coming back. Right?
Yeah, but we would have thought of that if it was an actual movie.
But he did a series of videos.
Is a video a movie?
Yes, it's a video on the same cassette that a movie would be on.
Could you guys stop, please? You are killing the podcast.
This podcast is the best one ever.
The Rubber Boots podcast has been delayed for retooling.
Please stand by.
If there was a nuclear war, which is looking more and more likely every day, and TSN was hit, and Puffy, Lester, the staff at Tim Hortons, all of the interns were destroyed, and you were somehow on a day off, you would not be back on the podcast.
That's hurtful.
But you did mention.
Did you get James's knife out of my back?
You did mention.
He actually knifed you in the front.
You're wearing a shirt that says "Prop Dad."
Prop Dad.
Prop Dad.
That's why I took the Augusta deal. I'm never coming back with my kids.
Bagger Vance.
Yeah, but right here is where this game is won. Right here on the green.
You get to play with Matt Damon
and Will Smith. Matt character.
Matt Damon's character, I remember this by heart, was named.
Hold on, the page is folded.
Ranula. Juna. His name was Mr. Juna. I can't remember the rest.
How do you read this?
I can't read. I tried to make a note about the movie thing beforehand, and it failed. But you get to play with Will Smith.
Will Smith as Bagger Vance, too.
And you know how dumb we are? I think people who listen to the podcast have established that we're not the sharpest guys. People in television.
Yeah.
Puffy and I had a prolonged discussion over whether Bagger Vance was a true story.
And I think we came out he was.
Because, Walter Hagen and Bobby Jones are characters in the film. Mm-hmm. Now, Bagger Vance is a ghost, apparently.
Spoiler alert, in case you haven't seen Legend of Bagger Vance.
What?
Which we all have seen it.
Are we talking about Sixth Sense? Is this Sixth Sense or is this... No. Bruce Willis was a ghost.
But if they were the actors, so if you got to play around, would you play with Will Smith and Matt Damon over Kevin Costner, Tim Conway?
Tim Conway.
And Cheech.
He wants to go there and play
And his is the Mary Tyler Moore guy.
Ted White.
Ted White. Yeah.
But don't forget, if you're playing with Tin Cup, you get to play with Cheech, too.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, he's
that's not bad.
But if you get to play,
and that's who you picked.
And Renee.
Didn't you?
No,
you didn't
Renee.
pick her.
Would she be there?
Would she be walking along the sidelines?
I guess she could.
Right.
If you play with me, with my guy, you get to play with Rodney Dangerfield too. Al Cervic.
Wait, but on the Bagger Vance, isn't Charlize Theron in that movie?
She's in that movie. It's a pretty good one. Yeah, she was.
Well, last week...
my choice.
Oh, you didn't choose yet?
Yeah, Bobby Jones is who I would choose.
Here the left arm pulls the club right through the ball.
Jesus.
He also has played Jesus, so you'd get to play around with him too.
Jimmy Caviezel. You're playing with Jones and Jesus.
Or would you like to play with...
Do you think people understand that reference?
In Augusta, they would. It was a big deal down here.
So the guy...
It was promoted for several years.
Was that The Last Temptation of Christ? The movie he played?
The Passion of Christ.
The Passion of Christ.
Mel Gibson.
What's the guy's name?
Jim Cazzavelli.
No,
Cazzavelli.
Jim Caviezel. Cazzavelli.
You said it with such confidence.
That's why I thought I nailed it.
Caviezel?
Caviezel.
Okay, and he played Bobby Jones in a Bobby Jones
Did he play
movie.
Superman?
No.
Oh.
Wow. This
has
been
coming back because I'm the guy that has the pop culture references.
Yeah, you kind of redeemed yourself
You
at
didn't
the
even
end.
think of Lacey Underall. That was in Caddyshack. You could play with her.
Yeah, but I wanted to win money.
Okay.
So that's why I'm playing with Chubbs.
Okay.
He's got one hand.
We're going to stop now because Brad Fritsch is standing by. He's an actual PGA Tour player who might give some insight and credibility to this disaster of 32 minutes.
It's been one of the funnest times of my life.
Well, thank you. I want to thank Bump and Run, Jamie Rydell and Bob Weeks for coming on the show and also providing all the technology to make this happen.
Yeah,
I'm sorry about all my factual errors. I'm not drunk because I don't want to get fired for this, right?
The Mick Ultra.
You know, Christoph can add this properly afterwards.
But it's way funner
post.
this way.
This is written by Kenny Loggins' brother, by the way.
Kenny Loggins.
Yeah, Dave Loggins.
That is really good info.
Okay, because
unbelievable.
you know how gullible Puffy and I are. Kenny,
We've already reeled us in.
Do you know what it's called? This song?
This song does not have a name.
Yes, it does.
Ask Adam Hadlin. He knows.
How many
You know what we should do?
hit songs is the Loggins brothers pumped out there?
Can you play this again? We do a song every week.
He's like,
Okay.
You know,
Dave Loggins is like the Keith Gretzky of music.
I don't know
One
if
hit.
it might be Kenny Loggins is the...
Do you imagine if they played, what's the Kenny Loggins song from
Highway
Caddyshack
to the
again?
End? Oh.
I'm
All right. Imagine if that was the Masters theme. Jim Nance comes on Sunday. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
I'm all right.
That'd be great.
Okay, so why don't we do words to the Masters theme? I'll do it. I'll improv.
Okay.
All right.
There we go.
This will go well.
You got.
I'm not going to rap.
There are
Sweet.
words.
You're gonna have like 26 seconds here.
It is the Masters. It happens the first week in April. Actually, it's the second.
It's a tweener week.
In Augusta, Georgia, Tiger is not here, but Jordan. Oh.
I had to buy. I didn't want to buy it on iTunes.
Seriously.
It's not my best work. Should we get Christoph to cut that?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, that was horrible.
All right, Christoph, you might want to cut that.
Hey, Christoph, you're going to have to cut the last 33 minutes.
Yeah. End it right after Rod Smith's recap. Let's go right to the interview. Brad Fritsch is next. Lester, play him in.
Ooh, I got an itch to hear me some Brad Fritsch. He plays on the tour, professional guest for sure. I got an itch for Brad Fritsch. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I got an itch, scratch that itch for Brad Fritsch.
Brad Fritsch, PGA Tour player, fellow Ottawan. Do you call yourself an Ottawan, or because you were born in Edmonton, are you an Edmontonian?
No, I refer to myself as a native of Ottawa. I'm not sure Ottawan is that like an Ewok?
I don't know. It's
kind of an...
If you listen to the first half of the podcast, I'm not having a good day. I'm tired. I made a lot of factual errors. I wasn't focused, so I'm hoping you can somewhat redeem us.
We really didn't do anything today, though.
I know.
There was a lot of standing around.
Well, that's television. This was your first day in TV. What did you think?
Well, like I said, a lot of standing around, a lot of kind of planning with the cameraman that doesn't exactly go as planned. So there's a lot of trying to track each other down.
Do you like it? Is this a future, do you think, for you?
It's fine.
Fine.
I'd rather play golf.
Great, thanks. Thanks for the resounding endorsement of TSN for any future golfers who want to play on here. You know, it's a pretty small field here. We could have gotten a lot of guys, but we went for the Canadian. I put the word in for the guy from Ottawa, and now he's trashing the show.
That was very Twitter-esque of you. Take my words and just spin them.
That's what we do in television. That's your next lesson. First of all, I guess I should tell people about you. You won last year on the web.com tour. You've been a pro for how long now? How many years?
This is my 17th year.
And you and I met at Wayne Gretzky had what he was called the Nationwide Tour then, the web.com tour, which is the tour right underneath the PGA Tour. Wayne Gretzky had an event up there for a few years, and I met you when we were both playing in that event, me as one of the whatever.
Just call yourself
quote,
a celebrity.
Quote,
it's okay.
unquote. I was the guy, I'm telling you, the Gretzkys called me like 2 days before, because after when all the A-listers, B-listers, C-listers, and D-listers bow out, that's when they call the sports commentators.
I mean, to be fair, that was before your book was published, which was a real hit, I'm told, and before this podcast, which will send you over the top.
Already has. I should say as well, you're the rare athlete. Athletes sometimes have reputations that they're not the brightest because they've spent their life in sports. So Brad proofread my book, and I don't know how this happened, but we were talking at some point, and Brad said, I will proofread your book. And I probably had 4 or 5 people read my book, but I don't think anybody picked up more grammatical and spelling errors, which there were aplenty, than you. How did you get so learned?
I don't know if it's learned more than just an eye for detail. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist in certain aspects of life. My wife would probably laugh if she listens to this, but there's zero chance of her listening to this, so that's good.
There's zero chance of mine either, so we're good.
I had an English teacher in high school, grade 12, and OAC, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but probably the rest of the world isn't. That was, I wouldn't call her a Nazi, but she was the kind of the prototypical, everyone thought of her as the mean teacher. But to me, she was awesome. She taught me a lot about the English language and how to be detail-oriented and stuff like that. So I pick up on that stuff a lot, and I just, when I heard you were writing a book, I remember I just texted you and said, hey, can you throw me the script when you have it all done? I remember I missed the cut in Halifax, so I spent the weekend at Tim Hortons just plugging through that for 2 days.
By the way, just a temporary hold on. Can you turn down the TV? Brad Fritsch is doing an interview. He's a big deal. Thank you. We're doing this in a house if you're just joining us for the interview. So I'm trying to gauge, I know there's people listening that aren't massive golf fans, so I'm not going to ask you technique of golf or anything like that. But what is it like being a professional golfer? Because the big difference between all the other sports is the contracts. You sign a contract in hockey for $1 million a year, you make $1 million a year. Same with football, baseball, whatever it may be. Golf is purely based on how well you do. And you've had years where you've played on the PGA Tour. You made $568,000 in 2014. And 2011, you're playing on the Canadian Tour. You make $35,000. How is that on a day-to-day existence when you're all based on yourself and your family? When you have a bunch of kids, you live in North Carolina, your lifestyle is based on how you play golf. That's got to be a ton of pressure.
It's a little bit of pressure, yeah. Obviously, you try to save as much as you can on the good years, and I've managed to do a good job of that. But I think the key is when you said you live your life based on how you play. I try not to do that. I'm not spending any extra money when I play well.
So you don't go out and buy the Benz if you come and get a top 10 or something?
No, my 2013 Wrangler was a big purchase, and I bought it last year, so used. So
do you see guys do that on tour? Some young guy comes on, wins in his first year, and next thing you know, he's got a Lamborghini or something?
Yeah, there was actually a funny story on the range last week in Puerto Rico. A guy had a top 10 as a non-member, so he Monday qualified in. He was a Web.com tour member, but he Monday qualified into the big tour event, and he had a top 10, and apparently a couple of his buddies were saying the next week he was looking at private jet rates, and he had on his laptop like a big Denali, pimped out. He had chosen all the options. It was like 75,000. It's like, man, you had a great week. You won like 140,000, but after taxes and paying your swing coach and your caddy and everything, that's probably not a good idea to spend it all. So you see that a lot. Guys get excited, which is fine, because it's when things go really well, it's a ridiculous amount of money that you can make.
You had your first victory on the Web.com tour last year in Colombia, and like that's a great tour. People focus on the PGA Tour, but there's fantastic golfers on the Web.com tour. What was that moment like? I remember you kind of walked off the green and did a little sort of private kind of fist bump to yourself, correct? Or just pumped your arm a little bit?
Yeah, I was screaming inside. I could hear myself screaming, but nobody else could. It was obviously very exciting. I had kind of given up the lead in the last couple holes and then had a birdie the last hole to get the playoff. The playoff was weird. I actually could have 5 putted and still won. The guy kind of made a mess of a hole. I felt bad for him.
He hit a couple balls in the water, and so
he did, and I was on the green in 2, and he I think he had a 4-footer for 8, and I was putting for eagle. So I was.
Isn't that the best way, though?
It was the absolute best.
Because you're walking up that fairway and you know you've won, right?
Pretty much, yeah. If he had chipped in for 6, I think I would have been like, oh, okay, I've still got to be on. But this was literally. I don't even have to be Patrick. I can't screw up like Patrick Steffen did on that empty net goal. Like, there's no chance. Unless
I should say Brad's a massive hockey fan. We'll get into that in a couple minutes.
Unless I have a seizure or something, which would be terrible. But no, it was great. It was a lot of fun. You talk about the competition. The guy who I beat, Ollie Schneiderjans, which is a handful to say, but he's a Georgia Tech guy, and now he's on the tour this year as well.
He's a good player.
Really good player, and he's playing events that I'm not getting into now because he's had such a good start to his year. So it was a big moment for me because up until that point I hadn't played great in the year, and all of a sudden I'm number 2 on the money list, and it's such a big It's a big difference.
And you get your card from that, right? Do you get a card guaranteed if you win, or you have to finish top whatever on the money list?
No, you have to finish top 25 on the money list, but the 2 weeks later, which was our next event in Mexico, I finished second. So it was boom, boom. I've got my tour card, locked up.
You had it before. You had a couple of good years on tour in 2013 and 2014. But what is the difference between the Canadian tour, the Web.com tour, and then the PGA tour? Is there that much more luxury? Do they treat the players that much differently? Give me just some examples logistically of being a PGA Tour player as opposed to the other tours.
PGA Tour, you get a courtesy car every week.
Nice car.
Whether it's like a Lexus, Mercedes, which, let me tell you what, they're confusing to operate if you've never done it before. I once drove down the Glen Abbey driveway, and all of a sudden I popped my hood open by mistake.
While you were driving?
While I was driving, I pressed the wrong button. I don't know what I was trying to do, probably open the window. But courtesy car at PGA Tour events, you're renting a car at Web events, and at Canadian Tour events, you're probably renting and splitting with 2 other guys. Wow. So I remember early Canadian Tour days, we'd bunk. A buddy of mine and I would travel together, and we brought a couple of buddies to caddy for us. So we were doing 4 guys in a hotel room. The caddies were sleeping on the floor. We had this weird thing, I think it was in Thunder Bay, where one guy slept under a desk. One guy bought an air mattress for the week and then returned it to the Walmart after using it.
You got to really believe in yourself and love the game to go through all that stuff.
You do, but I was young. I was 24, 25. I was just kind of scratching the surface of what I could become as a golfer. I was just doing it more for the experience. You didn't really take stock of your game at the end of the year. If you had a little bit of sponsorship behind you, which I did, from a lot of people in Manotick, where I grew up, and that's the Ottawa area, it was kind of let's try 3 or 4 years at this and see what I can do. And by the end of those 3 or 4 years, I had kind of established myself, or at least proven to myself, that I was good enough to keep playing.
Did you have any welcome to the NHL moment in an early PGA Tour event or something, where you're next to somebody on the range or playing with somebody in a group? Do you remember any of that?
Well, I remember I Monday qualified. It was my 5th ever professional event. I Monday qualified for the Greensboro Classic, and it was right down the road from where I went to college, and I was living there during the wintertime. So I had played 4 Canadian Tour events in Myrtle Beach, and then Monday'd for this event. Completely not ready, very lucky to have qualified. And this was in the era of bigger equipment contracts, so equipment companies, for even guys like me, were paying $3,000-$4,000 just to play their driver for the week, and then they'd pay you $1,000 for their putter. So I was grabbing all these things, and I'm thinking, how much money can I make just for teeing it up this week?
Right.
Of course, most level-headed people would think, well, you make your money on the golf course. I wasn't very smart back then, but I played that event. I remember I made 7 birdies and an eagle in 2 rounds and missed the cut by 10. So that was kind of, Brad, you might make too many bogeys to be successful at this point in your career. So that was a little bit of a, welcome to the PGA Tour, where, you can't get away with 74s. You gotta shoot 71, 70, your bad rounds.
They're ridiculously good. I mean, even the guys on the Canadian Tour are fantastic. You had a moment, a couple of times, you had, I think, 3 top 10s in 2014, and you almost were in the hunt to win PGA Tour events back-to-back at Torrey Pines in 13 and 14. Did you ever have a moment where you thought on the back 9 on Sunday that you were going to win, or had a real shot to win, and were crushed afterwards?
I haven't been crushed afterwards, but in 2014, after the tournament ended, I think I was 3 shots out of a playoff, and I kind of look back at some of the putts I missed for birdies on the back 9, and I thought, man, I could have really won this. And that was my second year on tour, right at the beginning of the second year, and that was probably the first time that I thought, man, I should have won, because making a 15-footer is a 30 to 40% proposition. Mm-hmm. But if I made 1 or 2 of them, who knows what could have happened on the last hole. But yeah, I had a lot of opportunities that day. But that's kind of, you play 25 events a year, so you're going to have ones where you waste opportunities, and then you're going to have ones that you take advantage. During that year, 2014, I made a 40-footer on the 36th hole of the Canadian Open to make the cut, right on the number. Had to wait the whole day after to see if I made the cut, and then I shot 3 under on Saturday, and I shot 6 under on Sunday at Royal Montreal. No bogeys either day, and ended up finishing tied for 9th. So basically, on the 18th green on Friday, I was making $0, and all of a sudden, I think I made 150 grand. And so that's kind of the, there's no guarantee contracts, but that kind of thing where I played very middling for 35 holes, made a putt, made the cut, and all of a sudden on Sunday, after 2 great rounds, I'm in the top 10. So it's kind of that's the gratifying part of the game is you can turn it on, you can get hot, and kind of an unlimited amount of money you can make.
It's also, I think your demeanor, you're very laid back, soft spoken, and I think things roll off you, and I've noticed that with a lot of golfers. Obviously you see guys crush sometimes if they lose a major in a playoff or something or make a big mistake, but because it's a job and because there's always a next week, I think that's the difference between you guys and average hacks like us, is that I'll go out, if I'm 1 under after 5 holes, I think I'm suddenly the greatest golfer in the world, and I'm going to set my all-time record and shoot 69, and then I go triple-double, whatever, and end up shooting 47 on the front. And I think in general, that's the way all Sunday golfers are. They get too high, they get too low, they get too mad, they get too happy. And the one thing I've noticed about the demeanor of pros is, man, they're playing for massive dollars and they can still shake it off.
Yeah, I think there's a line in the movie Moneyball, which I love. I love that movie. And Brad Pitt just says, it's a process. It's a process. It's a process. Like, you can't judge yourself how good or bad your game is by 1 hole, because 1 hole can absolutely destroy you in golf. The other 71 holes of a tournament, you could play great. Mm-hmm. And that one could drive you down into 40th place. You take stock of yourself after a couple of tournaments, 3 months, 6 months, the year, 3 years. I don't look at, I try not to look at myself, where am I going to be after next week's event? Because you put pressure on yourself like that, it's not going to turn out in your favor. There's too many guys who are already set for life who are playing golf out there. They have no pressure. They have the pressure internally to win majors and stuff like that, but I'm just trying to,
feed your family.
Right, feed my family, establish myself, make sure I have another year on tour, try to get 2 more years, try to be eligible for their pension. Eventually,
what do you have to do to get that pension?
I think if you play 5 years out of 10 as a member. So I'm on my 3rd year in 5. So that's kind of, I've got 2 more after this.
And what's the pension like? Is it?
It's based on the number of cuts you make. So obviously Tiger Woods' pension is way more than mine.
Would he get that? So Tiger Woods, who's worth $1 billion.
It's all value based on how you've done in your career.
Is there a cap?
I don't think so. I think at one point.
So would Tiger get like $3 million a year in his pension or something like that?
I don't know that, honestly, because I'm not even eligible for it yet. So,
but at some point you'll learn.
But at some point I'll learn. But I think it's one of the best pension plans around that I've heard. So, the PGA Tour makes a lot of money, and it's a non-profit, so the money has to go somewhere. Players are very well taken care of.
Let's get to the good stuff. You met your wife on eHarmony.
Yes, I
How
did
did that go?
I decided to move down to Raleigh. I knew a bunch of people there from college, but they were all married. I'd gone on a couple dates with friends of friends and stuff, and that wasn't working out. So I gave that a shot. She was the second girl that I went out with. Third, sorry. Second kind of semi-serious one.
What were the first 2 like?
The second one was all right. Not really sure what happened there, but it turned out for the best. But no, it's a valid way of meeting people, in my opinion, because you just expand the circle of people that you can meet.
See, I only asked you that question because I wanted to get to the real question. How many PGA Tour players are on Tinder?
Oh, that's a good question. I know there's a few. I had to talk someone down, not off the ledge, but one year, a couple of years ago, I said, man, you got to be careful about that, because if you're in town and they know you're in town, they know who you are. They know why you're here, for what event, and they assume you have money, so just watch out.
Well, would they put it on their Tinder account, though? Would Ricky Fowler be like, hey, Ricky Fowler, PGA Tour player,
no, but
swipe?
Maybe some of the lesser, the lesser known guys who, a graduate of the web.com will go up and he'll put, PGA Tour player. you might want to watch out for that kind of stuff.
We got to get to hockey, which is your other passion. You're a massive Ottawa Senators fan. We are taping this early in the week, as I don't know exactly what the playoff situation will be, so maybe we'll avoid that. If people are listening on the weekend, the Sens are going to either be in or out by that time. But is that a big... Puffy wanted me to ask you, what would mean more to you, winning the Masters or the Sens winning the Stanley Cup? I refuse to ask that question because I know winning the Masters, but how big would that be to you? Is that your second thing in life outside of family besides golf?
Yeah, I'd say so. I've developed a pretty big passion for it. I now have friends on the team, which...
Who are your closest friends on the team?
Eric Carlson. Obviously, Alfredson doesn't play for them anymore. He works for them, but he's a pretty close friend. I've gotten to know Bobby Ryan pretty well, and Chris Weidman.
Who's the best golfer?
Out of those guys, probably Alfie. Yeah, he's a legit, 1 or 2 handicap. He's on his interclub team in Ottawa. He's a good player.
Did you see him singing the other day at that game?
I refused to click on the play button. I didn't want to see
that. I mean, it's one thing for an idiot like me to embarrass myself singing, but Alfie's a legend.
He is a legend.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan, and the fact that I have relationships with some of the players and management now is...
You know Dorian very well, don't you?
I do, yeah. He's a really good friend of mine, actually, and we communicate.
Does he give you insight? Does he say, "Hey,
into my game"?
No. Would he give you a heads up? Hey, Fritchie, Colin White we're signing him to an entry level. He's going to play for us.
No. We'll talk about it after. He might walk me through the process of what happened, maybe a trade, but never before. No, I think he's too busy to be, running things, not by me, but just talking about it. He's a very dedicated guy, but he likes to talk about. He wants to know more about golf than anything. He tries to steer the conversation away from hockey. I try to steer it back on.
Is that the way? Like, if you're with players, they want to talk about golf and they want you to give them tips, right, on their game, and you want to talk to them about hockey?
They want to be professional golfers, and I want to be a pro hockey player. That ship has sailed.
Did you play at all?
I did. I played up until I was 18.
Were you good?
In Ottawa. I was a fairly skilled but rotund center. I didn't quite have the stamina to stay on the ice very long.
You're very self-deprecating about your size. I will just say you're not like one of those ripped athletes, that's all.
That's right.
You were making fun of me for having a protein shake. You said you've never had a protein shake in your life. Have you ever tried to get, have you ever got on one of these Dustin Johnson, Tiger Woods workout plans ever?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever been inspired to try that?
I should have been after I had a pretty serious back injury about 3 years ago.
Right.
And I cut some weight right away. And actually, the first week I did it, we were at Disney World. So that's dedication. If you can lose weight at Disney World, that's impressive. That's impressive.
You didn't do one of those turkey legs?
No, I didn't. Actually, maybe I did.
But you have a Chick-fil-A problem. Also would be a great sponsor for the podcast. With Mick Ultra.
Would it ever?
The Rubber Boots Podcast, brought to you by Mick Ultra and delicious Chick-fil-A.
There's one in Toronto, apparently.
I've only said this because that's all Brad has been talking about all day is Chick-fil-A. Why the hang-up with Chick-fil-A?
Why? It's like Canadians and Tim Hortons.
Really? Is it good, though?
It's awesome.
It's not just crappy fast food chicken?
It's the healthiest fast food. That doesn't say much at all.
So you just get this chicken in a bun crap?
Yeah, pickles underneath it.
Fried?
It's lightly breaded. You wouldn't call it fried. Like, you wouldn't call it like I don't know if you've ever been to like a Popeyes, or it's not like KFC fried chicken. Okay. Not like that. No, it's different.
All right.
I'm having to do too many things to justify this.
Well, we'll go to Chick-fil-A. We have some sports to watch tonight. Good luck to your Senators if they do get in. Good luck to you the rest of the way. I know part of the problem with this getting everybody thinks you get a PGA Tour card and suddenly you're out there every week. You can't get into events. That's your number one problem this season. Is that fair?
It's been a problem, yeah. I've played in 7 tournaments. I don't know how many there have been. I mean, I know there are guys that have played
20,
15,
probably?
16
right.
events. But
so why? So because you have status, but you don't.
The best way to explain it is I am probably member number 200 in the priority order, and all the events up to now have been 144 players. Next week, or 2 weeks from now, it'll start to be 156. Maybe a bunch of guys from Europe will go back and play over there. Hopefully it thins out because I'm losing
What do you do in the off weeks and just sit home and practice and wait?
Yeah, exactly. I try to Monday qualify for those events that I can. I've played okay in those, but some of the scores have been
they're ridiculous.
Crazy
You got to shoot 61 or something to get in.
Yeah,
right?
like 64 was in a playoff for Houston. I didn't go do that one, but I'd done 2 in Florida before that. It's a rough go. It's a PGA Tour card, but it's not very high up on the food chain. So you just got to play well. Hopefully, get in tournaments early and play well. And I haven't. I've played okay, but I haven't had any high finishes. So I'm in the priority order. I'm pretty low down. So I just got to wait.
Well, listen, I hope you have a great year. I hope that you warm up to TV, since we were not very impressed by your comments from your beginnings with TSN. Bump has dropped by from the podcast earlier.
Just making sure that
he's going to take care of the technology. He kind of said that he thought TV was okay, but there was a lot of waiting around and talking about what you were going to talk about.
That's a producer problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a producer error, which will get rectified. If you want Bump off that show, you say the word, we will make it happen. Thanks for listening. Brad Fritsch with us all week long here on TSN as we get ready for the Masters from Augusta, Georgia. Next week, we'll be back in the shop on the Rubber Boots podcast.
Buffy's hypotheticals are messing with my mind. Buffy's hypothetical, what's it gonna be this time? Buffy's hypotheticals are blowing my mind again.
Well, we're never going on the road again. This is JD's podcast, JD's Rubber Boots podcast. He's gonna sit and relax and tell you all sorts of stories. He's gonna talk all about life and sports, and probably we'll play some games. And if nothing else, we're gonna have a laugh. This is the podcast for the Masters.
Are you wearing your rubber boots tonight?